Your astrology is really an energetic signature of a snapshot of the universe the moment that you came into this world. And I find it so fascinating that there are still people today in 2026 that don't understand that astrology is a real science, that it perhaps is one of the most important sciences informing the way that you move about the world, in the way that you evolve, in the way that you are in your beingness. Hello, it's Kristin Rowell here with the Energetically Efficient Show. I'm super excited today because we are going a little bit rogue. I'm talking about a particular energy platform or paradigm or system or structure that I absolutely love, and that is called human design. So I'm hoping that by the end of this episode, I may convince you why you might consider loving human design too. I was introduced to human design several years ago now. I can't even tell you exactly how many years I've been working with that particular, I don't know if I want to call it a structure or a paradigm or a modality, but one of the ways I like to describe it is I say astrology is here and human design is like up here. It's almost like really specific or majorly more specific astrology. And I've personally just found it so helpful on my spiritual and energetic journey. So we know in astrology that you have, and maybe you don't know this, but just in general, that you have a sun sign, you have a rising sign, you have a moon sign. And as long as you know the time you were born, you typically know that information about yourself. Maybe you only know your sun sign. But if you know the time you were born, you might get into your rising sign and then your moon sign. And then all of a sudden you figure out that you have all of these different planet placements, like where Venus was when you were born, or where Mercury was when you were born, or where Mars was when you were born, or what sort of planets were in which houses when you were born. And all of that gets so interesting as you get into understanding more about your energetic signature in this world. Keep in mind, you guys, when it comes to just astrology, this is before I even get into human design, your astrology is really an energetic signature of a snapshot of the universe the moment that you were conceived, the moment that you came into this world. And I find it so fascinating that there are still people today in 2026 that don't understand that astrology is a real science, that it perhaps is one of the most important sciences informing the way that you move about the world, in the way that you evolve, in the way that you are in your beingness. So astrology is one sort of paradigm that I'm really interested in. I'm not a professional astrologer. I only pretend to have, a base level understanding of it, if that. But human design is the next level. And I really, really enjoy learning about human design. So I want to tell you about it. I want to tell you about my experience with it and then what I am and what some resources are for you in case you are interested in learning about human design too. So human design, unlike astrology, is a combination of a number of different modalities. And forgive me for not remembering all of them. I want to say there are 7, but it's a combination of some astrological principles for sure. I want to say the Kabbalah is involved to some degree. Quantum physics is sure a part of it, and several other different, I'll just say the word modalities that combine what is known as the modern human design. Now, human design, as I understand it, is a language, let's call it, modality, paradigm, whatever you want to say, a language that was downloaded by a man in Ibiza, Spain in 1987. So it's been around since the mid 80s and has really, I think, taken off in terms of popularity in the last 10 years or so, probably largely due to social media and people building businesses around interpreting your human design, giving you insights about your human design, and giving you ways that you can move about the world with understanding your human design. So one of my favorite human design experts, I'll say, is a woman named Jenna Zoe. Or Jenna Zoe. I actually don't know how you pronounce it. And she wrote this book called Human Design. This is her interpretation and her version of human design as explained in a book. And she also recently launched an app, and I have her app and I want to tell you about it. But first I want to give you just what the outline is of human design as I understand it, based on my own learnings of it and how I've had so much fun getting to understand my particular human design signature. So in terms of your human design signature, I'm just going to call it a signature. I guess you could call it a profile, but really whatever your unique human design is going to tell you so much about you. And you're going to learn so much about yourself through this particular format. It's one of the reasons I love it so much. When I first learned my human design, I remember thinking at the time and reading about myself, oh my God, I literally finally feel seen. I can't believe how seen I feel by understanding exactly what my human design is. So for every human design person, there's a lot of layers to it. And I'm not going to get into all the layers of it with you today, but I do want to tell you about sort of the basics and how you can figure out what your profile is. I will say for your human design, just like your full astrological chart, to do a full birth chart, you do need to know the time that you were born and the city you were born in. So if you were adopted, if you don't have that information, there are human design experts out there who can help you in terms of just knowing your actual birth date and providing sort of a guesstimate based on that. But it's the best if you can have your actual time of your birth so that you can get an exact understanding of your human design. So let's start with what the main types are in terms of your human design. So there are 5 different types. So the first type, what is a large part of the population, is the category called generators. These are people who generate the energy of the world. This is, again, a big part of the population. The next category is called manifestors. This is another part of the population. The group is not as big as generators, but there are a lot of manifestors as well. And then there's a third category, which combines those two, and those people are called manifesting generators. Then there's a fourth category, and those people are called projectors. And then there's a fifth category, and those people are called reflectors. So reflectors are the smallest number of the population. For reflectors, I want to say it's less than 5% of all people are reflectors. I actually, for the first time in my life last fall, met 2 reflectors at a women's business retreat that I was at. And I was so excited to talk to them and to learn more about what it is like to be a reflector. And so other than that, I've never met any reflectors in my life because it is a pretty rare type. I happen to be, and I don't know if you would guess this because I was very surprised once I first learned that this was my human design type, I'm a projector, and we are only 20% of the population. And the interesting thing about projectors, which is so aligned with what I do in my business and how I show up in the world, is projectors are basically here to show people a new way to do things in a more efficient way to be. I literally came to the business name Energetically Efficient during a meditation before I started my business. And I cannot get over the synchronicity between the fact that I'm a projector in human design, which I did not know at the time. And I'm literally here to create a more efficient way to do things and to show people a new way, which is really, really cool. So if you're a generator, which is the most common type, you truly do generate the energy of the world. As a projector, miraculously, I don't generate any of my own energy. So obviously I work tremendously well on energetic efficiency. It's the name of my business, being energetically efficient. And I think that must have come to me intuitively because of the fact that I'm a projector and because I need ways to be as efficient as possible with my energy because I'm not, unlike a generator, I'm not creating energy all day long. So I get a lot of energy from being around generators, from being around manifestors, from being around manifesting generators. And it's been very interesting as I've polled my audience in several of the courses that I have led, or even one-on-one clients who sign up with me, that I have a lot of generators, manifesting generators, and manifestors who are attracted to my energy. And that makes sense because in the world, those of us who are projectors are designed to show you a new way. We go out and figure a way to do things better and faster and more efficiently. And then we are the mouthpiece who tells everyone about it. And I truly, you guys have been doing this my whole life. I mean, I laugh thinking about the fact that I'll be opening up Discover Strength here in Nashville in 2026. And it was back in 2007 when I did my first Discover Strength workout and was hooked and have been doing it ever since. And I have been a mouthpiece for that business, singing all about how important I think Discover Strength is to the entire Twin Cities community for the last literally almost 20 years since I've been doing that workout. And so I have told a lot of presumably generators, manifesting generators, and manifestors, and presumably some projectors and reflectors as well, you guys need to do this. I have figured out a better way. I've figured out a new way, and come and do what I'm doing. Come and do what I've figured out because I've solved this problem for you. And a lot of people listened to me and found that Discover Strength did solve their problem of not getting to the gym, not having enough time to work out, not having a focused strength training problem, not knowing what to do in strength training when they go to the gym. So it's just really cool to know that I've really been serving in my projector way for a large part of my life without even knowing it. So I encourage you, as you continue to learn, and again, I'll just share my own experience, in being a projector. I'll tell you what comes next in terms of my profile, but I do encourage you to go to the website myhumandesign.com, and all you have to do is put in your name, your email address. I believe they ask for your email address. They may not. I can't remember. And then your birth date, of course, the time of your birth, AM or PM, of course, and then the city that you were born in. And I've pulled human design charts for my clients from all over the world. I've pulled human design charts for clients in other countries who were born way clear across the world, and it works no matter where you were born, which is really, really cool. So after I know that I'm a projector, and I want to just read you something about a projector before I tell you my numbers, by the way, because I found this so interesting. It says the day you recognize yourself is the day others will start to recognize you too, which is fascinating because the projector is all about being invited. We have to be invited into things. If I was to create this podcast and I was to pontificate and share and give all of these lessons and share my stories and give all these teachings, and I was doing it to people who weren't interested in that information or weren't ready to receive it, they couldn't even really hear anything that I was saying. It would sort of fall on deaf ears. So when I created this podcast, my intention truly was to really reach those people who are interested in improving their metabolic health, who are interested in spiritual awakening, who are interested in evolving from who they were to who they truly came here to be, who are interested in figuring out their purpose in this life, who are interested in being the fittest, most energetic, sexiest, most abundant, joyful person that they could be. And truly, as a projector, I get to do that in my leadership. And when I tell you about my numbers in a second, I get to do that through my lived experience, which is really cool. Key things about projectors. So if you are a projector, the essence of a projector is the projector has the gift of seeing things in a way that others can't. And I would say I've been doing this my whole life, which is really, really cool. It also says that I will be valued for what I see rather than what I do. So I'm valued for my leadership. I'm valued for the way that I show up and get people on board with what I'm doing, which is exactly what I do in all of my teachings. The role of a projector is that I'm here to help everyone work and function better. So it all starts with me. So I have to first figure out how to work better, how to function better. I mean, this is true for my evolution out of the practice of law to running 25 marathons, to becoming a professional bodybuilder, to becoming a low carbohydrate athlete, to becoming a business owner, to leaving the practice of law and starting a business, to now starting a second business, to moving my body cross country, across Nashville. So there's lots of things that I get to do in my leadership, but I have to go first. So for those of you who are listening to this who are projectors, it's really important that you get out there and you experiment and you play and you figure out what it is that you want to do so that you can lead others. Interestingly, my battery is smaller, but it's more efficient. I find it hilarious, like I said in the beginning of this, that projectors are known for their efficiency, that it's all about how can we be as efficient in our energy. There are a lot of things I've read about projectors that say we basically are the queens and kings of the 4-hour workday because we don't have a lot more energy than that because we're not generating our energy. And it's funny, there are so many projectors I know, and I would say I am included in this, who truly have worked as generators most of our lives, not realizing that we don't have unlimited energy and that we actually do best and we are in our leadership more and we are more efficient, make more money, are happier, are more joyful, are better to our clients, etc. when we don't cram our schedules all day long start to finish. When we have breaks in our day that allow us to actually rest and to be contemplative and intuit things and really receive downloads from the universe, which is so cool. So to just round out this summary of the types, you're either a generator, a manifester, a manifesting generator, a projector, or a reflector. And I remember reading that something like 50% of the population is, it's got to be more than that. It's got to be 60 or 70% of the population is a generator, manifesting generator, or manifester. I just don't remember what the breakdown is. I know generators are the most of the population. Okay, so once we get past the energy type, then it moves into what are your numbers. So I am a 6-2 projector. So that's a 6/2. You could be a 1-3, a 1-4, a 1-5. You could be a 2-6, a 4-2, a 5-3, a 3-5, a 2-6. All of the different combinations between 1 and 6, and those are all different types. So each type has a name. So for example, I'm not going to give you my 6-2 right away. I'll just give you a different number because there are lots of them. So 2-5, for example, is called the reluctant hero. And the 2 in that profile is the natural, and the 5 in that profile is the liberator. So that would just be an example of one that's called a 2-5. That's a reluctant hero. If you are, for example, let's see, the 5-1. The 5-1 is the challenge solver. So again, the 5, because I already mentioned the 5, is the liberator, and then the 1 is the knowledge seeker. I want to say that Taylor Swift is a 5-1. I thought I remember reading that. I know the 5 line can be very powerful. 4-6 is called the regal authority figure. And 3-6 is the living contrast. I actually have never met a 3-6, but what I am is 6-2, and the name for 6-2 is called the exemplary human. And when I read that, I was like, well, that's really nice. But the reason that it's the exemplary human is that 6 is the wise sage. So a 6 line is really interesting in terms of human design. So I want to share that with you. And then 2, which I already read to you when I was talking about the 2-5, the 2 is called the natural. The 2 line can also be referred to as the hermit, because the 2 does make us want to hermit a little bit. And I would say, even though I'm a total extrovert, even though when I took the Myers-Briggs test, I'm an ESFJ, I was literally as far as you can go on the extroverted in all of the E's. Even though I have an extroverted personality, I do have some hermit tendencies. And that's largely because as a projector, especially a 6-2 projector, I have to hermit in order to recharge my batteries because I don't go all day. So I am getting a lot better. Certainly in 2026, I am practicing taking breaks during my day as best I can. And I mean, I always walk the dogs on breaks, but now sometimes I'm taking even just 5 minutes, you guys, or 10 minutes in my day to just sit on the couch with them and pet them, which is something I could never have imagined doing in a bajillion years while I was practicing law. It's like, what? You would sit in the middle of the day and pet your dog? What are you even talking about? But the truth is, because it leads to more efficiency for me, it leads to more joy, it leads to more intuitions, it leads to more like downloads of information that cause me to think of a program I want to create, solve a problem for a client, literally that space and breath in my day to just sit and pet my dogs has been so beneficial for me. So it's interesting, if you have a 2 line, I really encourage you to consider ways to get out of the routine of doing all the time and take little breaks. Okay, so as the exemplary human, what the 6 line is, it's called the wise sage, and it says the sage is someone who's born with innate wisdom. You come into this world already wise to life, but for your first 30 years, your connection to your inner wisdom takes a back seat as you try to establish yourself, your goals, and your direction in life. So you experiment with putting your energy into lots of different places, people, and opportunities, and this is an important process. So one of the things for anyone listening to this who is a 6 line, to know that for a big part of your life, for certainly those first 30 years, you're acting like a 3 line. And the 3 line is the experimenter. So you're truly experimenting. It's like, do I like this? Do I want to do this job? Do I want to do this major? Do I want to live in this city? Do I want to have this boyfriend? Do I want to blah, 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 blah. It's all of this experimentation and play, which granted, you're doing to some degree, no matter who you are, but it's more important for 6 lines because all of that experimentation is leading you into how do I hone into all of these things I'm interested in and all of these things I've been playing in. And how do I hone to where I truly have wisdom, where my knowledge is truly here for me to teach? Because as a 6 line, one of the ways you are to lead as you approach your 50s, and I'll talk about the 50s in a second, is you are to truly lead from just your embodied wisdom. You are supposed to teach from the place of your life experience. You're supposed to get paid to be who you are. And there is no truer person that is for than someone with a 6 line, specifically a 6 line as a projector. So as a 6 projector who's going to be 50 this year in 2026, I come into my most successful era in life from the age of 50 and beyond. We truly are culminating into our wisest sage in that part of life. And it's where you turn on the most magical gifts that you have so that you can live in all of your joy and abundance and from a truly aligned place, which is so exciting. So it says, as you come to the end of your 20s, you want to be more selective about what you put your energy into. And for me, as I came into the end of my 20s, I got married. I got married at the age of 27. Now I got divorced at 35 because I determined that particular marriage, at least, of course, wasn't for me. And I have been single largely since that time, which I never would have predicted back then. I was thinking, okay, I'll get divorced, I'll get remarried within a couple of years, I'll have a bunch of kids. Never would I have predicted I would have engaged in this much experimentation and play since that time and really honing into what I wanted to do with my life, which is to leave the practice of law. Never could have told you that in my mid-30s, but I chose to do that in my early 40s after truly becoming becoming more and more of who I came here to be, as opposed to who I was programmed to be by society, by my lineage, by societal pressure, by, just everything, by school, by every sort of system that's imposed upon you from birth. And I started to finally break out of that after my divorce in my mid-30s, and then really came into my own in my early 40s, which is cool. So if you are on the journey of a 6-2 line, or at least if you have a 6 line in your human design, regardless of whether the first number or the second number, just know that your most successful self comes to you when you get into your 50s, which is really cool to look forward to. The other thing I should mention about me being a 6-2, or for anyone who's a 6-2 or a 1-5 or a 3-5 or a 4-2 or a 2, any of the numbers, is your first number describes your inner self. So the 6 is how you are in your own self. And the second describes your outer self, the way you show up to others. So my inner self is the wise sage. My inner self is that I just know things, and I am here to share the wisdom that I have. My part that everyone else sees of me is a natural. So it says you come across as a natural, which means there are certain things you seem to be effortlessly good at without really knowing how you came to be good at those things, or being able to describe to other people how you do it. This, I would say, is true. The number of times I am told by people, clients, of course, people in my courses, of course, but even just other people, like, how do you just know that stuff? Or how did you just figure this out? Or why do you know that thing? And I can't honestly say most of the time why that's true. It's just something that I have learned through my own life experience, that I've gotten really good at, that I fully understand, that I'm fully able to express. I've talked to people, for example, about being on stage. I love being on stage. I love speaking. I find it so rewarding. I find it so exciting to connect with an audience. For me, being on stage is all about sparking something within the people in the audience to truly, truly, truly deeply own and understand who they are and who they came here to be. And I find that so much fun. And I may do it through teaching about metabolic health. I may do it through teaching about spiritual concepts like meditation or other things, but I really, really enjoy that. And for most people, that is truly terrifying. It's not that I'm on stage every single day and I've just gotten that good at it and it's easy. It's that it's something that I truly know I was coming here to do. And for a large part of my life, the way I would play in that arena is that I would be in trial. I would be in a court argument. I would make an argument to a judge. I would make an argument to a jury. And so that was a way that I was honing those skills as an orator, so to speak, or as a persuasive arguer in the verbal word. And I always found that so much fun. So that's something that I do that I'm just good at, that I'm naturally good at. It's why it was so simple for me to start a podcast. It's why that you can give me a podcast topic and then I can just talk for 30 to 60 minutes about it, because I just love to do that so much. And so hopefully, I should just say as a side note, hopefully you're enjoying the Energetically Efficient Show in this format that I'm bringing you. I will say within a couple of weeks, I have some new episodes that I'm dropping with some guests that are coming back. Laura Shera, for example, my friend who's guest hosting with me, is going to be coming back for an episode soon. So stay tuned for that. That'll be really fun. She and I are going to be talking about our own journeys in perimenopause, so you don't want to miss that episode. Okay, so the 6-2, like I said, is what I am. But then when someone says, what is your human design profile? I say I'm a 6-2 projector. But it's not just that I'm a 6-2 projector. What I tell people is, and this is sort of the other third most important component of human design, if you want to understand the basics of it, I say I'm a 6-2 splenic projector. So what do I mean when I say splenic? Well, splenic in human design is my authority. Your authority is the way you make decisions. There are several different kinds of authority, but my splenic authority tells me, and this felt very, very true when I read about it, and I would say this is absolutely the case for me. Your splenic authority is when you just have a knowing that that's what you should do, that that's a decision you should make, that that's the way to go, that that's the right answer, that that's the thing to avoid, that that's the wrong answer. You just know. And you can't explain why you know it. You just know. And it's a knowing inside your bones, and that is splenic authority. Now, the interesting thing about splenic authority, for those of you who this is resonating with, and you're like, oh, maybe I'm splenic authority. That sounds like something I might be. The interesting thing about splenic authority, and it's somewhat annoying when you're just getting used to it, is you only get that knowing once, and it comes quick and fast, and you need to practice trusting it. Because after that knowing goes away, if the moment passes and you don't make this decision, you don't act on it, you don't trust your instinct on that issue, you're not going to get the same knowing again. So it really, I think, is such a blessing, because it forces you, it's a way that the universe is forcing you to truly trust your intuition and to say, I just know. I don't know how I know, I just know. And I'm going to start to trust myself because my intuition is smarter than any doctor, than any professor, than any scientist, than any other expert. My intuition just knows. And my desire for everyone is to get more, to get stronger and more in tune with their own knowing, regardless of whether they're splenic authority or some other authority. So let me tell you what some of the other authorities are so that you can see if any of these resonate with you. Another authority is called sacral authority. And one of my sisters and I have talked a lot about human design, and she is sacral authority. And so her knowingness, like mine is a knowing in my splenic authority, hers is a gut instinct. She feels it in her gut. My gut tells me this is right. My gut tells me this is wrong. My gut tells me I have to do this. So a gut instinct is different than a knowing. It's a splenic authority versus a sacral authority. Hers is her gut. There's also an ego authority. And I do know several ego authority people. I don't know much about that typical authority, but what it says is what you want is your intuition. So your ego is all about your wants. When you have an ego intuition, meaning when you have an ego authority, it means that the right things to choose in your life are the things you want, not what your gut or emotions or mind tell you, but the things you look at and say, I want that. How fun is that? So ego authority must be total fun. I have a really good friend who's ego authority, and I've got to remember to tell her that. So I just passed sacral authority in the book and splenic authority, which I've told you about. Another kind of authority, and this authority is very interesting because I know several people with this authority. It's called emotional authority. Okay, emotional authority, of all the different authorities you could be in human design, this is the one that takes the longest. So I always tell my emotional authority people, it's not like you can't decide. You decide. Like once you decide and you don't waver. It just takes you longer to get there because unlike me, who has I just know, you have to feel through the emotions of everything. So you have to be like, oh, do I feel this way? So the way that they describe it in the book is, it says when your authority is emotional, it means your emotions are the CEO of your aura and your life. It means that the right choice for you is always the one that makes you feel happy or content when you think about it. So your emotions towards something, towards any choice, are not random. They're the way the universe specifically tells you the right way to go in any situation in your life, and you can always rely on them to show you what the most aligned option is. So for some people, they may be able to move through their emotions really quickly on something in a matter of minutes. Maybe in a matter of seconds, but more likely it may take hours, it may take days. For some people, it could take weeks, maybe not that long. But for an emotional authority, it typically takes people to reach a decision. It takes a little bit longer rather for people to reach a decision. And most importantly, with ego authorities, especially for those in your life who you love, do not rush them. If you have a gut instinct and you just have this gut knowing, or you're like me and you just have a knowing, if I'm in relationship with someone of emotional authority and I'm like, oh, just decide already. I already have decided. That's not going to work. They're not going to like that because they need to feel through all of the options before they make a decision. So for you moms and for you dads, it's really important to know your kid's human design. Can you see how this could be so important if you're constantly rushing your kid to pick out what they want to wear to school in the morning and they're like, does this shirt make me happy? Or does this shirt make me happy? I just have to like kind of feel into it for a second. And it might take them a little longer, whereas you may be a sacral authority or a splenic authority and it's just a very quick decision for you. So just something else to know that is emotional authority, which is addition to sacral authority, splenic authority, and like we talked about, ego authority. There are two other authorities, actually three. There's one I just read about that I didn't hear about before. So the other authorities, there's three other authorities. One is called a G center authority. And so this is a sounding board intuition. So you get clarity on things when you try to put them into words. So when you say things, when you bounce ideas off to people, when you share things with people, and then they reflect back to you what they're hearing or what they think you should do, that is how you make your decisions. So it's literally you sound off to people and they reflect back to you. And then there's a mental authority. So with a mental authority, it says it makes you by default a rare kind of projector called a mental projector. I wonder if mental authority is only for certain projectors. I think it is. Interesting. So this says a rare kind of projector called a mental projector. I don't think I've met a mental projector before. And it says a mental projector, well, let's see. All the colored centers in your chart are above the throat, which means that your mind center or Anya runs the show. But you have two different, a mental authority is what just makes sense. So it's like, okay, this just makes sense. That's interesting. I haven't met someone with that. And then lastly, which I was not aware of that there's a lunar authority. Okay, so lunar, of course, is the moon. So with lunar authority, your intuition doesn't come from a part inside your body like it does for other authorities, but this is coming from outside of you, from the universe. Okay, so lunar authority is something that is specific to reflectors. And remember, I told you reflectors are like 5% of the population, maybe even less. So lunar authority is going to come up very infrequently. Typically, you would see sacral authorities with generators. You would see splenic authorities with projectors. And I think there's some other kinds of, I think splenic and sacral can both go with manifestors, but I can't remember specifically. And then I know ego can go with generator. I know emotional can go with generator. So it's just interesting to find out what you are. So when someone says to me, what's your human design, Kristin? I say, I am a 6-2 splenic projector. So it's the first number over the last number. So it looks like 6, line 2, splenic projector. And that's what I tell them. So you may be a 1-3 mental, not mental, because that's only going to be true projector. You could be a 1-3 mental projector. You could be a 5-2 sacral generator. You could be a 6-3 sacral generator. You could be a 4-6 splenic manifestor. So it's just interesting to think about all of the different profile types and how there's just so many different ways to make the world go round. I think human design is so freaking cool. Some things that I've used it for, in case this is helpful to you in terms of my business, for example, is structuring my days. So I looked at my business coach about 1.5 years ago and I said, I can no longer sustain this all-day meetings every single day, back to back to back, with no time for content creation, with no time, for example, to create a podcast, with a very limited amount of time to work on, other creative ideas in my business. And I really desired to have more time and space in my calendar. So she and I worked through a different schedule for me that would allow me to have a ton more space on my calendar, carve out things, time to do a podcast, to attend networking meetings when I want to do that, to not be behind the computer all day, every day, so that I could actually be serving in my best projector way that I could. And that's been really rewarding for me in terms of putting together my calendar. I mean, truly, you guys, the way that I used to run this business when I started it was not only exactly like the way I used to run the practice of law, which is to have my calendar booked from 5:30 in the morning until 10 o'clock at night, basically every day, but I also was so back to back with clients with hardly any breaks that I was truly operating in a generator energy, which isn't in my most aligned way. So as a projector, over time, like sure, you can sustain it for a while, but over time, what happens is you burn yourself out, you become resentful, and none of that is the way I want to feel in my business, because I am doing this business as a service and because I truly love what I do. And I love the clients that I get to support and help in their journey. So it's really important, I think, to figure out human design so that you can structure your days, find the right work for you, figure out, am I in my 30s and I'm still in this working through my experimentation phase? Am I coming into my 50s where I now know that it's time to put the pedal to the metal because I have a 6 line and I know I'm going to be my most successful now into this era. And I really should be experimenting up until that point. There's just so many cool things that you can learn. Other things that are really important about human design that I'd love to share with you, because again, it's all in this book, is that you have a list of gifts. And I know that people just love to hear about themselves. I mean, who doesn't love to hear about themselves all day long? And so it's really, really cool to listen to, what are your top gifts? What did you really come here to share? What sort of unique gifts do you have with the world? And so just by way of example, and I'm going to turn to the part of the gifts in the book that goes through all of the gifts. And then there's a section on all of them. So the chapter 7 is called Your Gifts, and it literally has a whole thing about all of the different gifts. And so gift 1, and then it tells you about gift 1, and then it has a section on how to flex this gift. And then it says how to unblock this gift. So it's a gift you have that you're being unblocked. It tells you how to do that. And then it goes into gift 2. And truly, you guys, this is how many gifts there are. I want to say it's almost 64 gifts. How cool is that? And so if I go to my chart, which I have on this app, I will share with you just example of a first gift so you can hear this, because your first gift is your most important one. So my first gift is gift 7, which is natural integrity. And when I read that, I was like, that really resonates. Like, I feel like integrity is a value that is so critical to me. It's so important to me. And so I was like, okay, so if my gift is integrity, what does that mean? So it says Integrity and virtue. People with this gift are here to be role models for behaving with integrity in everything they do. There's a pureness to their soul because doing the right thing is so important to them. And that's true. I used to think I was like this extreme rule follower. I would say I'm very much not a rule follower anymore, but I do like to do quote unquote the right thing in terms of honoring this value. So choosing between what might benefit them versus doing what they know is the right thing is a no-brainer for them. They will always do what's right. That's true. In this life, you came to behave in an exemplary way. This makes you a leader because others see how highly you conduct yourself and then see you as someone who can show them how to be better themselves. And you guys, this is literally what I do in my energetically efficient business. This is how I coach. This is how I lead. When I teach group courses, when I'm teaching things like master your energy, being magnetic, hot and fit over 40. All of these things are helping people, showing them how to become better themselves. And it all starts with me. So it says, I may have never chosen to be a leader or want to be a leader in the traditional sense of the word. Actually, that's true. I do enjoy it. But when you're embracing this gift, others see you as a virtuous example, which they can aspire to or use as a North Star to help them show up in the world, which I just think is so fun. And then it says, there's a whole section, I'm not going to read it to you, but there's a section on how to flex this gift. So as I'm looking at this, it's like, okay, I should read this again. And then it says what blocks this gift. So just by way of an example, what blocks this gift for me is conditioned judgments about being virtuous. So we've been taught that naturally virtuous people are better than those who have to learn it. In a person with gift 7, this can manifest in 2 ways. So I can be afraid of being that shining example because being better than others means a fear that people will look at us and think, who does she think she is? Or a fear that it would distance us from other people, or the idea that being our most wonderful self is bad. I would say I've definitely in my journey felt those things at times. Like I know of times, I can think of examples where I've dimmed my own light for fear of, just knowing how bright I can shine and then wanting to dim it as someone's going to judge me for that, when it's so silly, you guys, because I now fully understand that the more brightly I shine my light, the more brightly it allows you to shine your light too. Like we truly all raise each other up. So there's no better thing you can do in this world. I mean this very truly. There's no better thing you can do in this world than shine your light, because it allows others to shine their light too. I want to say this quote that I heard, something like, you showing up as your authentic self allows everyone else around you to do the same, which is just very true. And so it's really, really important. And then the other way it can block me is it says, letting your easy virtue make you feel superior to others. For others, virtue doesn't come easy. And it's a gift you got given so you could help others get there too. So we're all here to share from our easy. Correct. So in other words, I need to not judge other people if it doesn't come as easy to them. And I need to be, I'm just so impatient with them not getting it or not becoming virtuous or something. So it's really all about me being patient with others, showing in my leadership, and then having that natural gift of integrity to allow others to come along in the way. So those are just some of the key principles of human design. Again, you're going to think about what is your type. So I am a projector. What is your authority? So I'm splenic. And then what are your numbers? So I'm a 6-2. So I say 6-2 splenic projector. And just so I say this properly in terms of human design and how she shows up in the book, I mentioned that, like, for example, splenic for me is authority. So that's your authority. So my energy type is a projector. My authority is splenic. And then your profile is your number. Your energy type is the name. And your authority is like the splenic that I suggested. So my profile is 6-2. So I'm a 6-2 splenic projector. Projector being my energy type, splenic being my authority, and 6-2 being my profile. So you need to figure out what yours is. Again, you can go to myhumandesign.com to figure that out. I also recommend this My Human Design app, but then I want to share with you because I played it for a little bit. If I go to My Human Design, so I just love this app. Jenna Zoe started an app called Align. So it's Align, the human design app. So ALIGN, human design app. It's very inexpensive. She wanted to make human design accessible to people. But the reason that I love it is there are tons of questions in it that you can prompt it almost as like a human design chat GPT, so to speak, but even better because it's Jenna actually giving answers to questions that people have asked over time. So I just want to play one for you. I have my microphone here, so I'm just going to play this as an example. And this was using your energy correctly, and this popped up on mine because I'm a projector. So it says, what's a simple piece of advice you have for a projector? So this is what she said. This is like only a minute. I just want to play this for you.
What's a simple piece of advice you have for a projector? We live in a world that is set up for generators and manifesting generators. So it's totally normal to feel like it's hard for you to keep up sometimes.
That's so true, you guys. And I laugh because I never knew that that was the case for me, but it's very true.
Just remember that it's nothing wrong with you that you have to change to keep up, but that you have to accept your way of doing things even more and trust that it will give you your happiest, most successful life.
So I don't think there was anything more difficult for me that when I found out I was a projector, that I had to accept that I didn't have unlimited energy, that it's okay for me to need rest throughout the day, that it's okay for me to not work 10-hour days and not feel guilty about it. It was the biggest hurdle for me to overcome. And I say that because just like she just shared in this answer, our society rewards generators and manifesting generators, and our society is truly set up as if everyone is those energy types. And not all of us are. In fact, those of us who are projectors are 20% of the population. We're a small percent of the population. But because we're here to show up in our leadership, because we're actually here to lead all of you generators and manifesting generators and show you a new way and show you a more efficient way to do things, we need to have our rest and our breaks to be able to do that, because then you guys can go around and do the work that we are suggesting. Projectors make great leaders. They make great bosses. They make great CEOs. They really are the people who are the visionaries, who see the 10,000 foot view, who are the structure people. And then generators are more of the people who are busier doing the work because they have the unlimited energy. I do want to share with you just one more thing about human design before I end this podcast, because I think this is also important. I think it's going to be tough for me to just talk about it, but I'll do my best. So in fact, what I think I'll do, I'm going to put an image up here just of my particular human design, because I want to show you what an image looks like. And I'm going to pull mine up as I talk about this, simply because I want to show it to you. Okay. So when I look at my human design, I'm not going to show it on my phone here as I'm talking. I'm just going to put it up on the screen. And the reason for that is I want you to just see what a human design chart looks like in a visual sense of the human body. So what you're looking at is there's this triangle at the head pointing up, then there's a downward triangle kind of at the face and the mouth, then there's a square around your throat and heart space, then there's also a square, but it's turned on its side around your solar plexus, and then there's a square around your sacral region. There's another square at your root. And then you see these kind of 3 side triangles, 2 way on the outside and 1. So this is what a human design chart looks like. And people who are experts in human design, I am not, I know the basics. They can give you all sorts of really cool info about this. And again, I recommend that you consider getting this app so you can learn more and more about it. But as you'll see on my chart, what I want to draw your attention to is you'll see that some of those shapes on my chart have a color in them, and some of those shapes do not. They're just white. That's important. Everyone is different in that regard. And so what the colors mean is that those are closed centers, so to speak. And what the white sections mean is those are open. And so open and closed obviously mean different things, but one of the things that I understand in terms of the open, it's somewhat difficult for me when I have an open root and an open sacral, because my understanding of open is that I tend to feel and absorb the energies from others because I'm so open in that area. My root chakra is open. My sacral chakra is open. So it can present opportunities for me in terms of the connections that I create in the world, and it can present some sort of difficulties for me if I'm not tuned into setting boundaries around those areas, because I could get, by way of simple example, someone who has a lot of disjointed or trauma in their root. I could take on some of that in my interactions with them because of the fact that they see me as someone who can empathize and is open to whatever their issue is. So I have to set really good boundaries around it. So that's one way that I understand it. And I only know, like I mentioned, just a very, very, very small bit of that, but I know enough to know that the colors mean it's closed and the white means it's open. And so, for example, I don't have a lot of open in the top part of my body. My crown and G center, those are closed. My throat chakra, my heart chakra closed. It's just very interesting because that can give you even more insights, but I don't even want to delve into all of that. A, because I don't understand it that much, and B, because I don't want this to get too long and confusing because I've already given you a ton. The other things that are really interesting, if you choose to download the app or if you choose to get your chart on humandesign.com, which is free, is You will learn about how you manifest, which is very amazing. So my manifestation process is specific, and some people manifest non-specific. So for me, I manifest and create things in my life more easily when I say to the universe exactly what I want. And I will tell you, you guys, last year, it was in July or June, I can't remember the exact month, I traveled down to San Miguel de Allende to pick up my stem cells and some other medications. I was in Mexico for 48 hours. I didn't really understand why I orchestrated this whole trip to go down there. But once I was down there, I figured it out, which is, in addition to, of course, picking up all the things that I flew down there for, I had a very intense dream in this particular Airbnb that I was staying in one night as I was sleeping, and I had a vision of a home. I had a vision of my romantic, intimate partner. I had a vision of what I was doing in terms of going about my day. It was unbelievable. And so because I've had that specific vision, I can then manifest from that specific manifestation place and create that vision in my reality. It's just a matter of drawing it out. Like I saw the front of my new home. I know what neighborhood it's in. It was just this knowing that I had. It was really, really exciting. And yes, it is here in Nashville, which is fun. So that can be something really good to learn about yourself, because if you're a non-specific manifester, the more specific you try to get with what you want to manifest, the more it's going to block you from actually manifesting it. So it's really good to know, are you non-specific or specific? And if you're a non-specific manifester, you really are better off focusing on the feeling that you're going to have when you have the thing, sort of the general excitement you have around the thing, but not attaching to the actual thing, because that's going to block your manifestation every time. So I thought that was really fun. I also learned a lot about things like it's important for me to eat in dimmer light settings. I eat better in the evenings than I do in the day. Evening eating when it's dimmer, like I said, is better for me. My strongest sense is touch. And that is fascinating because under the love languages, I am physical touch off the charts. Physical touch is my highest love language for sure. So I think it was also interesting at how much knowing my human design confirmed for me about a number of other things that I already knew about myself. Hopefully you found this podcast episode interesting. I love talking about this stuff. These are some of the things I work on with clients and guide them through if they're interested in, for sure, as it relates to what they do in their business world. If they're interested in changing careers, I do coach clients in that in addition to nutrition. So if you're ever interested in one-on-one coaching, please feel free to visit my website, energeticallyefficient.com, and fill out the application to see if we're a good fit to work together. I appreciate you being here for this episode. I look forward to being back with another episode next week. And until then, bye-bye.